Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. So I just scored another lot of really fun dinosaur figures and I wanted to show them to you guys because you guys seem to enjoy these type of videos. Even if the dinosaur figures aren't that great, I am just completely obsessed with dinosaurs, as you could probably already tell. So of course, anytime I can get some new figures to add to my collection, even if it's not what everybody would consider, appealing dinosaur figures, I'm pretty happy about it. And this set of figures includes one figure that I really wanted for quite some time, and I was happy to finally get a hold of it with this lot. I think I paid like 15 bucks for the entire lot altogether. That's, I'm pretty sure, including shipping, so it was a really good price for these figures, but they are by a company called Jasmin. Now, if you are familiar with these figures and that company, you know that the figures are not your most highly detailed, beautiful dinosaur figures ever, but they still were pretty cool, or at least I thought they were, for when they were created. So we're going to bring in the ones that I got with this newest lot of figures right now. And the very first one, and they're actually very large also, they're smaller and larger versions of these figures. This, and actually all of the ones included in this one are larger. This guy's got a weeble wobble problem, but there he's finally standing. But this one is a raptor. Now, I don't know if these are meant to be velociraptors or what exactly. There is no name for the species on the undersides of the figures, and I've actually tried searching on Google to try to just generally get some more information on the raptors that are included, because there's yet another raptor in here that's different than this one that I'm unsure of exactly if they're meant to both be velociraptors or what. One very weird aspect is the fact that the sickle claw is super crooked and totally bent sideways on this figure. You can see right there the middle toe, which would be the sickle claw toe, is totally sticking out sideways. No idea why, but even with that aspect, I still think he's a pretty fun figure. You know, they're fairly nicely detailed for the time that these figures were released. And overall, I'm definitely happy to add this one to my collection. I don't think I actually had this, although that's not the figure that I was really excited about getting a hold of. And for the most part, they're in pretty good shape, except you can see a chip of the paint there on the tip of the tail of this raptor. But the next one is yet another raptor. This is the other raptor that I was talking about. This one's kind of in almost a quadrupedal type of a position, even though it's obviously not implying that it was a quadruped. But you can see again that huge sickle claw there, exposing the fact that it is quite clearly meant to be a raptor. Very interesting looking figure. This one definitely has some paint wear. That eye should probably be touched up, and there's a few other areas that just generally have some paint wear. But these figures are pretty old. I don't know if it actually says the date here on the underside. That's the wrong way. See if we can find the date for when these were made. So 1997, you know, they're not super old, but they're definitely pretty old. We've got a solid like 24 years, 23, 24 years on these figures. So they are definitely, you know, a little outdated, but still a pretty cool figure. Nice looking paint scheme. You can see the eye is a little better over here on this side compared to the previous side, but still not really in that great of shape. But yet another very large figure. Actually, to show you guys like how large these are, there's Mr. Papo T-Rex there included, and you can see that he's really not quite as impressive as he normally is in comparison to these figures here, because again, these Jasmin figures are pretty big. There is also a very fun Stegosaurus included, and you can see he looks pretty cool overall. Again, not your most up-to-date or scientifically accurate Stegosaurus, but still pretty fun. Again, sporting a pretty nice size, decent-looking detailing to the figure, and an overall fun-looking Stegosaurus. Again, these figures being so large, they instantly have an appeal factor to them, I think, due to their larger size, but actually having some pretty decently detailed appearances to them also helps overall, and that is one of the reasons why I think I'm so drawn to these older Jasmin figures. But man, they're just so big that I can't keep them here all at once in frame because I just don't have enough room to bring in the others. Then we have another figure which, again, these Jasmin figures are not the most notable for having an actual species name attached to them. This one, I don't know what it's meant to be. I heard it is potentially a Maiasaura, but I've also heard that it's a Brachylophosaurus. I've heard that it's an Iguanodon. You know, you really don't know exactly what this is, but it's still another really cool figure, and I actually quite like this one a lot. I think the overall sculpt, at least from a distance, is pretty appealing. You can see it's a very cool looking herbivore and a very bright green paint scheme. Pretty neat looking overall. You've got some nice scale detail to the figure. not much movement as far as like skin wrinkles or anything shown on these older figures, at least on this one, but still a pretty neat looking figure. I really am a fan of it, and I've liked it for a very long time, although I think this is like the second one now that I have of this figure, but still a pretty decent looking figure overall. And then we actually have some of the smaller Jasmin figures. So here's one of the smaller Raptors, and they actually have quite a few, like in different poses. You can see just two of the Raptors right here in different poses. Really fun looking figures. Again, not your most up to date. They actually look almost like they were, of course, inspired by Jurassic Park, and being that these were released in the 90s, that makes perfect sense that they would be probably fairly heavily inspired by Jurassic Park. We've also got a really cool looking super vintage Parasaurolophus, actually, too, which has almost a sail here on its back. Very interesting take as far as a Parasaurolophus goes. Very, very unique looking are some of these Jasmin figures. And then we also have an Apatosaurus, which I really like the Apatosaurus. Like, something about that sculpt looks really, really appealing to me. Not the best paint application to it with just a green coloration and like random purple stripes, but I really like the sculpt overall. I like the appearance to the figure, and I feel like, now I just knocked over a Raptor, but I feel like it's a really nice looking Apatosaurus for the time that this figure was made. Another really fun figure from the Jasmin line. And then we've got a Pachycephalosaurus as well, and now I'm knocking over that other Raptor. It looks like their legs are a little bowed, so they don't want to stand too well. But we have the Pachycephalosaurus, the smaller Pachycephalosaurus. There is a larger version out there as well, which I do already have, but still a really fun figure. And again, you know, I mean, for the time that this was made, that's a pretty decently detailed figure, and I feel like some of these with a repaint and giving them a more realistic paint application, it could look pretty darn nice overall. And then we also have kind of the miniature version of our buddy that we have there in the background, which we are unsure of the species of, which, you know, also looks really nice. And the detailing on the smaller figures, I feel like, is a little nicer than what we see on the larger ones, like especially if you look up there in the mouth. I feel like, again, another figure that could look really cool with a repaint, but also sports a pretty darn nice looking sculpt overall. And then we come to the point where we take a look at the figure that I bought the entire lot for. It was pretty much one figure that I really wanted, but the others being added in were like an awesome extra, and that would be this one. Now, it's very close right now, so as we move back, you'll see that it is an absolutely beautiful looking Gallimimus, and I've always been so drawn to this figure because of the obvious appearance of it looking like a Jurassic Park Gallimimus running along in the field. I've always wanted to get a hold of this figure and repaint it to look more like the Jurassic Park version, but having it here, I'm unsure if I want to repaint it or not yet. It's definitely on my mind. I may buy another, keep one original, and then repaint one, but you can see that the head sculpt is really quite nice, and the figure as a whole, even though it's got a lot of like paint chips and stuff on it, still looks really, really nice, and definitely something that, again, I've been trying to get a hold of for a long time. It's one of those figures that I was just always so drawn to, and honestly, other than the similarities between this and like a Jurassic Park Gallimimus, I'm not entirely sure why I really, really wanted to get a hold of it, but I'm definitely happy to have it now in my collection. Yet another of the many Jasmin figures in my collection, and potentially my favorite Jasmin figure overall, I think. Really awesome looking Gallimimus, for sure. So as always, if any of these figures have piqued your interest, you'd like to see a review of any of them, make sure you let me know in the comments. But otherwise, make sure you also like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.